Greetings. Go now.
Your tolerance of the intolerable is admirable.
I need more mana.
Everything dies. There you are. Good job. You are? To go.
None shall pass! We can win this! For victory!
Ah, there you are.
Hello. Let. I need more mana.
Good job.
Hey XLs, how's it going? Back again today with an update on the Explodemaxxing or Elementalist. We are kind of just shifting into a more generic damage stacking, do all the damage types of build. I was curious about this after playing Corrupting Fever, and I was just looking for ways to maybe combine Poison and Ignite with all of that. Now, uh, Ignite, in this case, we're largely just going to be scaling via explodes from the boots and then proliferating with the gloves. And then all the damage will really just come from poison, kinetic fusillade, because to use the boots, we have to use Warped Timepiece, which has all this reduced skill effect duration, and Window of Opportunity, which has the debuffs fall off faster, also has a reduced skill effect duration. So it was an opportunity to try out Kinetic Fusillade. I've been curious about this skill for a while. And aside from the duration gimmicks, which I'm even having to use a reduced duration ring here, it comes with a lot of generic multipliers. So one thing about this sort of quad cluster primordial bond stacking thing is you get a ton of percent increased damage. It's global, it scales everything, but it's just percent. So you have to be able to account for both flat damage and more damage multipliers. Now, in my case, I'm going for a decently high phys damage wand. It's not the best. I think I paid maybe 10 divs for this. And then, since we are Elementalist and we are also scaling our heralds with Lost Unity, we're not using Delicia Ascendancy at this point. May or may not be worth it, but I did that on my other character, so I'm trying this setup without it. So we are aligning as much of our scaling to be as generic and point efficient as possible. So the heralds we run are Agony, Ash, and Purity. Purity scales our base phys. Agony scales the poison damage that we do. Herald of Ash helps scale the poison damage because it's phys as extra. And then the pops are really strong with clear. Then Lost Unity and Herald of the Hive gives us more damage for each of these. And then also is that the pulsing hit, which I am leveraging with this Balance of Terror. So inflict Wither for 2 seconds on hit. So anytime I hit Wither and I'm clearing, so it'll be ticking faster. As long as I've hit Wither, it's constantly applying, or if I hit Despair, it's constantly applying Withers on hit. And then I managed to get one with Action Speed Temp Chains as well, because this helps counteract the slow buff from Embrace Madness, as well as various other temp speed things. So just while I'm mapping, every 10 seconds or so, I'll just tap QE and then keep going. We are also using Lightning Warp because we are stacking reduced duration. I used this in my Stormcall build last league. It was very strong. I set up the tree to basically be as generic as possible. We're not necessarily locked into this timeless setup. It's just these 3 points are fairly efficient, and I don't know. This is maybe not going to be too much worth it anymore, but this is still 2 good life nodes and then Frenzy, Endurance, and Shock Immunity. So it's something. But then we've shifted over to Anima Stone, so we are not only scaling damage from primordial bonds, but we are also pushing our golems to, what am I at, 14 now? Yeah, 14 golems, and scaling the heck out of their buffs. So 600 life regen, that's pretty much all from Stone Golem. Capped accuracy, 30% crit-ish, which I am running with Elemental Overload. because I don't think there's any feasible way to get enough crit multiplier on this, just given how limited we are on the items. So it's like helmet's locked in, this is locked in, this is, these are all locked in. I could switch out to Headhunter, but it's fun, and it's as a mapping character. Chest piece is flexible. I'm just opting for a beefy ES one. You could put Explode here, you could put whatever, you could put the Herald chest, I don't know. Gloves are conversion, and I'm using phys to light right now. At this point, it just seems like the cleanest fix, and we get the as extra, so not bad. Like I said, I have a pretty good phys one, so I'm leaning hard into the as extra because that all counts for poisons with Beacon of Madness. And then in terms of explosions, I am running Oriath and the boots. Overall, that feels pretty good. It looks like it was the curse on hit that was really making me lag the most, so that's why I'm self-casting. But yeah, let's see. So Rune Graft of the Warp. This is important to help make the buffs fall off faster. Treachery. I'll even show you. So when I turn on the buff, these things start coming up. So these two are potentially the most risky. The reduced life regen and then the increased damage taken. But you can see how quickly they fall off. You very rarely get more than 3 stacks. It has to basically choose the same one. It's statistically unlikely, but it does happen. Well, geez, paralyzing touch is stacking like that, so yikes. So, every now and then stuff like that can happen, but it's not the biggest deal. You're running fast, and it's only 7% increased damage taken. But this is almost as much reduced debuff duration as you can feasibly get. You could, maybe get more frantic aspects on like a different Megalo or something. But this one has a Primo Bond and Oriani's Lesson on it, so I don't think I'm going to be replacing that. The Primordial Eminences and Anima Stone, I'm testing, but there may be more utility I could get out of this rather than just buffing up golems and getting some increased. Because, like, for example, I picked up this Corrupting Blood Jewel, which has the multiplier and damage faster. And this is actually more damage than a Light of Meaning was here, just because I have so much just percentage increased damage on all my primordial bonds and stuff. It's just you just don't need any like percentage increased modifiers anywhere. Whereas things like poison duration, which I don't have a lot of, as well as multipliers, that's the kind of thing that stands out a little bit. So I'll have to do some testing there, but I could also put my shock gems back in and then get Bastion of Elements for full element or reflect immunity. I could also finally take a Bloodline Ascendancy. Lycia would obviously be the most damage, but I don't know, we're keeping it generic for now. This setup would potentially work next league, and honestly, the base of this, what makes this work, the boots, and you can do this without the helmet. You could honestly do this other ways, but it's pretty playable. And even if you have to path down here early with this and then one of these rings, this is a pretty strong contender for what I would play early on, just because the 25% chaos pops paired with ignites are just too strong in mapping scenarios, because especially in like tougher content, the beefier the mobs they are, the ignites and technically they will always 100% poison as well. So that's huge. And I mean, one angle that you could also potentially go is if you shifted more res to your, because like yeah, this ring is zero resistance on it, right? If I shifted the res over to the ring, maybe the chest, you could put in Foulborn Embalmer with Poison Prolif, and that might kind of be gilding the lily at that point, but you would also need to switch to. Well, one thing I actually did was I got rid of my Silver Flask because you want your duration to stay below your attack speed so that you can always just hold down to attack. Um, but you can get Poison Prolif here. Well, I guess I could maybe get a Fan the Flames Megalo. That could be cleaner because you'd switch out the gloves. But yeah, this is basically just a little snapshot into how my brain is working a lot of the time when I'm playing this game and making builds, because there's just so many different ways these pieces can fit together. It's so interesting. And like, so I am running fire exposure, mainly just to enable preserving stillness, but the ignite damage that we do apply is a non-zero amount, and you know, what the heck, might as well lower that. Since our hit damage doesn't really matter, we're just applying poisons, but ignites are ignites. Overall, really fun build, and there's a lot of weird little ways you can min-max it. I'm debating maybe even just dropping a lot of life, shifting much more over to ES. CI is right here. I have several ES on recovery block shields.
What do we?
I got like this thing. That could be pretty crazy. But I don't know. Swollen definitely makes you feel safe, but you don't really get any recovery. So I don't know. We'll see. But this is super fucking fun, honestly. It's fast. You don't really have to aim. I mean, one of the challenges to swapping around is like I can't really change my tree. This is just block, all that. This is just efficient. I can't really change it. So how many different builds can I make work with this super generic setup? And luckily wand nodes are right here. There's a couple different choices, but like I said, I don't want attack speed. And the as extra is good here because I'm just kind of leaning into that. Additional proj would be a little bit more damage, but leech is pretty big. We don't really have any attack leech on this side of the tree for mana, I don't think. So I'm just going for that. But we don't really, can't come over here for the additional projectiles and stuff. But what's cool about Fusillade is projectiles deal 11% more damage, so that's all types, hit and ailment, more damage per previous projectile in sequence. So we can just use Greater Volley and GMP to fire 8 more projectiles, so that's 88% more damage, whatever, for like the first hit, which is nuts. Then we use Swift Affliction and less duration to bring the duration down, as well as get the damage, obviously. And then Phys to Light is, honestly, you could maybe use Sacred Wisps. Like, we don't have to fully convert. It's just, Elemental Overload, I think, loses efficiency if you're not fully converted. I could be wrong. But yeah, Wisps would maybe be better for clear. I don't know, but this is probably the version that I'll take to 100. I'm enjoying it the most. Chaos just feels so much nicer to map with. So thanks for watching, and I will see everybody next time.